Hello, this is George from Golden Game Soccer. Today we're looking at the legendary player Edson Arantes de Nascimento, or as he was more commonly known, Pelé. Pelé is the symbol of Brazilian football. He was a phenomenon, both in terms of technique and physique. He played as part of the Brazilian national teams that won 3 World Cup championships in 1958, 1962 and 1970. He's the only player to have been part of 3 World Cup winning teams. Pelé is the most successful domestic league goalscorer in football history, scoring 650 goals in 694 league matches, and in total 1,281 goals in 1,363 games, which is a Guinness World Record. Pelé was named FIFA Co-Player of the Century in 1999. He is also famous for describing football as the beautiful game. Pelé was born on October the 23rd, 1940. He was the first child of João Ramos and Dona Celeste. He had a younger brother called Zica. Pelé was named after the American inventor Thomas Edison, but his parents dropped the I when naming him, preferring Edson. Pelé's father, known as Dondinho, struggled to earn a living as a soccer player, and Pelé grew up in poverty in the state of Sao Paulo. Pelé was originally nicknamed Dico by his family. He received the nickname Pelé during his school days. It wasn't a nickname that Pelé liked, and he stated that he had no idea how the nickname originated. Some have said that he used to pronounce the name of the local Vasco da Gama goalkeeper Bile as Pile. As a result, a classmate of his gave him the nickname Pelé. Others have said that the nickname was in reference to the skin on his feet, with his bare feet looking like leather or hide, the Brazilian word for leather being Pelé. Regardless, during his career, he collected other nicknames including the King of Football, the King Pelé, or simply the King. In Brazil, he is often called the Black Pearl. Pelé was taught to play football by his father. He could not afford a proper football and would improvise with homemade balls, learning to play by kicking a sock stuffed with rags or paper. In his mid-teens, he began playing for an indoor football team. Indoor football, or futsal, had just become popular in his area when Pelé began playing it. He was part of the first futsal competition in the region. Pelé and his team won the first championship and several others. According to Pelé, futsal presented different and more difficult challenges. He said it was a lot quicker than football outdoors. The smaller pitches and the playing surface required the players to think quickly because everyone was closer together on the pitch. Futsal also allowed Pelé to play with older children and even adults when he was just about 14. Pelé said that futsal gave me a lot of confidence. I knew then not to be afraid of whatever might come. He acknowledges futsal for helping him make quicker and better decisions. He played for several outdoor amateur teams too. One team was coached by former World Cup player Waldemar de Brito, with whom Pelé won 2 Sao Paulo State Youth Championships. It was de Brito who is credited for being the first to spot Pelé's talent, convincing his family to allow him to leave home and try out for the professional football club Santos when he was 15. Pelé measured 5 foot 8 inches tall, or 1 meter 73. He was right-footed but very strong with his left. He played as a deep-lying forward, a true number 10, a player with imagination who linked play into the attacking third, creating and scoring goals. He had remarkable speed, athleticism and vision, showing fantastic awareness of the players around him. Germany legend Franz Beckenbauer said of Pelé, "He is the most complete player I ever saw." The current Brazilian coach Tite was also asked his opinion on the best player of all time. "Pelé is incomparable," he replied. "Anyone who wants to make a comparison immediately loses credibility. They are people who do not live through history, who have not looked to understand how much of a genius he was. Pelé is above the standards of normality. I don't say that because I'm Brazilian. I say it because of the history, the magnitude, because of his technical qualities, his heading, his ambidexterity, his acceleration, his strength. Find a defect. There aren't any." In 1956, Waldemar de Brito took Pelé, to Santos. Santos was a club based near Sao Paulo, an industrial and port city. De Brito told the directors at Santos that the 15-year-old would be the greatest football player in the world. Pelé impressed Lula, the Santos coach, and he signed a professional contract with the club in June. Pelé was immediately touted as a future superstar in the local media. He made his senior team debut on the 7th of September 1956 at the tender age of 15, and had an impressive performance in a 7-1 victory, scoring the first goal in his prolific career. When the 1957 season started, Pelé was given a starting place in the first team, and at the age of 16 became the top scorer in the league with 32 goals. Overall, in his time at Santos, he won 9 Sao Paulo League championships, and in 1962 and 63, both the Libertadores Cup and the Intercontinental Club Cup. 10 months after signing his first professional contract, the teenager was called up to the Brazil national team. Pelé's first international match was a 2-1 defeat against Argentina on the 7th of July 1957 at the Maracanã. In that match he scored his first goal for Brazil aged 16 years and 9 months, and he still remains the youngest goalscorer for his country. 3 days later in the return leg, Brazil won 2-0 to seal a 3-2 aggregate victory, and Pelé scored in that game too. The world was officially introduced to Pelé in the 1958 World Cup in Sweden. Pelé missed the first 2 games of the tournament with a knee injury. He returned to score the match-winning goal in the quarter-finals against Wales in a 1-0 victory. The 17-year-old then went on to score 3 goals in a 5-2 semi-final win over France. Incredibly, he then netted 2 more goals in the final, a 5-2 win over the host country Sweden. At 17, Pelé became the youngest ever winner of the World Cup. After the 1958 World Cup, the young superstar received big offers to play for European clubs. Wealthy teams such as Real Madrid, Juventus, and Manchester United tried, but failed, to sign him. In 1958, Inter Milan even managed to get him a contract, but Angelo Moratti was forced to tear it up at the request of Santos' chairman, following a revolt by Santos' Brazilian fans. In 1961, the president of Brazil eventually declared Pelé an official national treasure. This prevented him from being transferred out of the country and was done to scare off rich European clubs and ensure that Pelé would remain in Brazil. Pelé was unable to make a significant impact in the 1962 and 1966 World Cups. He picked up a groin injury in a game leading up to the 1962 tournament in Chile. He recovered in time for the first game, scoring in a 2-0 win over Mexico. However, in the next game against Czechoslovakia, he aggravated his groin injury and was unable to play for the rest of the tournament. Regardless, Brazil went on to win the World Cup for the second time in a row. In 1966, Brazil went for a 3rd straight World Cup. However, another injury limited them only to 2 games. Brazil lost 2 of their 3 group matches and failed to advance past the first round. Mexico staged the 1970 World Cup. It was the first time the World Cup took place outside of Europe and South America. Mexico was not a popular choice. The tournament was to take place at the hottest time of the year, with games also being played at high altitudes, making it very difficult for players to perform at their peak. It was also the beginning of mass media, and FIFA allowed some matches, including the final, to be played at noon. This was the hottest part of the day, and players had to compete in full sun, so the media networks could maximise the global coverage, with the footage now televised in colour for the first time. The 1970 World Cup marked a new era in the game, as substitutions were allowed for the first time. Previously, teams could not replace injured or tired players, and the use of yellow and red cards was also introduced. This was a Brazil team made for mass media. Pelé had faced criticism for his inability to stay fit for the previous World Cups. He was very motivated to show the world that he was capable of lasting an entire tournament without getting injured. During the 3-week competition, he scored 4 goals and made 6 assists. He also contributed several moments of true genius to confirm his legendary status. Ironically, most of these were misses and failed to result in goals. Brazil beat Czechoslovakia 4-1 in their first group game. It was in this match that Pelé nearly scored from a shot taken from inside his own half. In their second game, Brazil beat England 1-0 following Jairzinho's goal in the 59th minute. In the 10th minute, however, Pelé was involved with another iconic moment when he leapt higher than the opposition defender to power a header downwards before England's goalkeeper Gordon Banks made a truly spectacular diving save to keep out what looked like a definite Brazilian goal. This is commonly considered to be the greatest save in soccer history. Brazil won the final group game 3-2 over Romania and beat Peru 4-2 in the quarter-final. In the semi-final, Uruguay took a shock 1-0 lead, but Clodoaldo scored just before half-time to level the score. Brazil then booked their place in the final with goals from Jairzinho and Rivellino late in the game. However, it is in this game that Pelé produced perhaps his most memorable moment. Running onto a through ball, and with the opposition goalkeeper coming out to meet him, Pelé produced a unique moment of improvisation and unpredictability, disguising his movement to allow the ball to run across him and the goalkeeper without touching the ball. He ran around and behind the goalkeeper to shoot right-footed on his first touch, but dragged the ball just wide of the far left post. Even now, watching this moment, the viewer is willing the ball to go into the goal. The fact that the ball misses the goal probably makes this moment even more memorable. This set up an epic final between Italy and Brazil at the Azteca Stadium on June 21st, 1970. Brazil played an attacking and creative style that entertained while still being devastatingly effective. Italy had previously beaten West Germany in the other semi-final in what is considered to be one of the most exciting World Cup games of all time. They won the game 4-3 in extra time. Italy were fundamentally defensively oriented with their Catenaccio style, but they were efficient and still had the capability to score goals. However, there is no doubt that Italy's semi-final had exhausted the Italians, both mentally and physically. Italy tried to contain the Brazilians, but Pelé scored a header in the 19th minute following a Rivellino cross. Italy showed character and equalised 8 minutes before half-time when they took advantage of a defensive error to score. But this spurred the Brazilians into action as Pelé and his teammates totally dominated the second half. In the 65th minute, Gerson scored an excellent goal from just outside the penalty area. Brazil poured on the pressure and ripped the Italians to shreds. 5 minutes after scoring, Gerson turned playmaker and booted a long ball forwards to Pelé, who headed it down for Jairzinho to score. The second half was completed in the last minutes of the game with a marvellous goal, a wonderful team goal. Clodoaldo retained the ball with skill, under pressure, in the middle third of the pitch, before the ball was played down the left side to Jairzinho, who passed to Pelé, who had drifted inside to receive the ball in a central area of the pitch. Pelé sensed Carlos Alberto overlapping down the right side and played a perfectly weighted pass that Carlos Alberto ran onto without breaking stride and smashed the ball right-footed into the far left corner. It was another iconic goal that sealed Pelé's reputation as the world's best player. It should be noted that Pelé's opening goal in the final was also Brazil's 100th in World Cup history. The defender who marked Pelé in the final said, "I told myself before the game he's made of skin and bones just like everybody else, but I was wrong." Pelé was the first player to play in 3 World Cup winning teams, and Brazil's win secured the right to take the Jules Rimet Trophy home for good. In 1974, Pelé played his last game for Santos. He'd been planning on retirement, but a bad business deal left him $1 million in debt. He reconsidered his decision and many top European teams tried to sign him. In 1975, and somewhat out of the blue, Pelé agreed to a 3-year, $7 million contract with the New York Cosmos of the North American Soccer League. Clive Toye, the New York Cosmos general manager, recalls trying to persuade Pelé to sign, saying, "Don't go to Italy, don't go to Spain. All you can do there is win a championship. Come to the US and you can win a country." Pelé's entrance into the struggling North American Soccer League boosted Americans' interest in football. His presence in the USA helped to increase average attendances across the league by almost 80%, from 7,500 in 1975 to 13,500 in 1977. One playoff match drew 77,000 fans. After leading the Cosmos to the league championship in 1977, Pelé played in his final game. The game took place between the Cosmos and against Santos and was played in front of 75,000 fans and broadcast to 38 nations. In a speech before the game, Pelé pleaded for the world's children and made everyone in the stadium shout, "Love! Love! Love!" in what was another Pelé iconic moment. He played for the Cosmos and scored a goal in the first half, before switching teams and playing for Santos in the second half. Pelé retired from the national team, playing his 111th game for Brazil on the 18th of July 1971, even though the Brazilian government kept trying to persuade him to play in the 1974 World Cup. His final game for Brazil was a 2-2 draw with Yugoslavia. Pelé is the most successful domestic league goalscorer in football history, scoring 650 goals in 694 league matches, and in total 1,281 goals in 1,363 games. He scored 3 or more goals in a single game, a staggering 129 times during his career. That included 92 hat-tricks, scoring 4 goals in one game on 31 occasions. He scored 5 goals in one game on 6 occasions, and even 8 goals in one match. When he scored, Pelé would often celebrate in the same way. He would run a few paces before jumping and doing a half pirouette and punching the air with his right fist. Unfortunately, we can't precisely tell how many official goals Pelé scored due to imprecise information about his career. This has led some to doubting the validity of his record. The most precise data states that Pelé scored 757 official goals in 812 games, domestic tournaments while playing for Santos and Cosmos, and goals for the national team. The remaining 524 goals include official and unofficial friendlies, but it's nearly impossible to tell how many of those goals were scored in official games, in order to find the categoric and accurate number of goals actually scored by Pelé. A real gauge of Pelé's goal-scoring ability was his international record. He scored 77 goals in 92 games. It is necessary to add context to Pelé's goal-scoring record and not immediately dismiss it as false. In order to pay Pelé's wages while still maintaining a team capable of competing at a high level, Santos were forced into playing friendlies to increase revenues. This was an era when selling tickets was the main form of income for football clubs. As a result, Santos had to travel the world to play prestigious friendlies and competitions to maximise income. To do so, Santos even withdrew from official competitions like the Libertadores that didn't provide enough income for the travel required. Pelé would most likely have collected more trophies had Santos not withdrawn from the Libertadores on so many occasions after 1963. It is also important to understand what these prestigious friendlies meant. These games cannot be perceived in the same way we perceive friendlies these days. They were games, not like modern-day pre-season matches to improve players' fitness. The tours across Europe and South America saw Santos take on the best teams in the world, as well as some more inferior teams. Regardless, whenever they played, winning was a matter of national pride. The Brazilian FA even handed out prizes to teams that went undefeated when on tours overseas. They were not luxurious affairs. On one European tour, Santos played 22 games in 43 days, sometimes with games on consecutive days, lots of travelling and very minimal practice opportunities. Despite those issues, Santos were able to record some wonderful performances and impressive scores. For example, beating European giants Inter Milan 7-1 and Barcelona 5-1 at the Camp Nou. Pelé most certainly scored many goals in these exhibition games, but they had meaning and some pressure. Santos, with Pelé's involvement, became a world-renowned football team. Pelé received a bulk of Santos's fees, becoming the world's highest-paid footballer and one of the top-earning athletes in the world. On November the 19th, 1969, Pelé scored his 1,000th career goal from the penalty spot. Hundreds of fans raced onto the pitch to celebrate with the Brazilian star, and it took over 30 minutes for the game to resume. At Santos, November the 19th is known as Pelé Day, to celebrate the anniversary of his 1,000th goal. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a comment. Also like, share and subscribe to Golden Game Soccer. Please take a moment to check out the other videos that are on the channel. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks again.